Hey, Damon.
Hi, James.
Do you know what I really, really want?
Tell me what you want.
Well, I want to be the very best.
There
Like
it is.
no one ever was.
No. Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Are You Convinced? We are talking about the world of Pokemon. If you're still here in episode 8, you're probably there's probably something with your phone and it's just stuck tuned into our podcast and that's the only thing you can play on iTunes.
If that's the case, we're really sorry. Maybe take it back to Apple.
The guys at the Genius Bar will look into that.
But we are talking all things Pokemon this week. Maybe not all things because Pokemon's been going for
close to 22 years.
That's crazy.
So the original games, Red and Green, they were in Japan. They were released on February 27th, 1996.
So I only just learned today that it was Red and Green. We grew up with Red and Blue.
Yes. So, I mean, I might have got this wrong, but as I understand it, they had Red and Green in Japan, and then a little bit later that year, in 1996, they had a blue version come out, and another version, slightly updated sprites, and then took the Red and Green game, updated the sprites, and gave us Red and Blue.
Right.
Which the US got in September of 1998. I think we got there in October.
Right.
So coming up next year is 20 years that we've been playing Pokemon, you and I.
Isn't that crazy? Well, actually, can I tell you... I was about to say, can I tell you a secret? There's not much point in me telling you a secret.
On a podcast.
On a podcast, which is public access.
Nobody tell anybody.
No one's listening
keep
anyway.
Keep this under your hat.
No.
It'll just be between me, you, and the other 15 listeners.
And these 2 microphones we're holding. I didn't want to play the games when they came out.
No?
No, I was so devoted to the show.
Okay.
And I watched other people play the games. And, as a little kid, you're like, oh, I've got a clear image of what something should be.
Yeah.
And I've gone, well, the games aren't like the show.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. And I think I grew up in a generation where if you played any sort of video game version of a movie or a show, it was just some crappy side scroller.
Yeah, okay.
Based on the characters in the show.
Yeah.
So I never fully appreciated the scope and the size of the world and that you got to be your own trainer. You weren't just being Ash.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then when I finally did get... Oh, what did I get? I think I started with Red. And I was hooked. That was it. Forget about it.
The rest is history.
Sorry, homework.
Here we are, 20 years later.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I remember it was like back Cheese TV days we're talking.
Cheese TV.
When, shout out to Jade and Ryan. They've come back into prominence. Actually, found a bit of interest on Facebook recently. Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. We got no traction with hashtag Convince Chad last week.
Convince Jade and Ryan.
Convince Jade and Ryan. Yeah, get them listening. Get them convinced. That'd be amazing. They were like my big brothers growing up.
Yeah, I've met them.
Have you met them?
Yeah, met them at Supernova. That's really cool.
So my morning routine was I would always get up, get dressed for school. 7:30, I'd be the first one up. I'd be watching Pokemon. Back in the days when we had one TV in the household, I got that TV because, damn it, I got up early.
Yeah.
And I earned it, and I'd watch my Pokemon, and then I'd watch half of Dragon Ball Z.
That's all you had time for.
That's all I had time for. And then I'd fight with Mum about 5 more minutes. I don't think I ever saw the end of a Dragon Ball Z episode.
See, I think that's why that kind of thing just went right over my head. I never got into Dragon Ball Z because I didn't have time. I had to go to school. So I
love Dragon Ball Z, but in spite of missing God, you turn on the next day and he's still charging the power beam or whatever. He's still charging the ball. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about
it was Cheese TV days, and I actually remember Channel 10. It was such a big deal. They used to have these episodes on at like 5 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
Like it was such a big thing. So new Pokemon episodes would premiere sort of like in a sort of Simpsons time slot almost.
Yeah. And we need to remember too, like Pokemon now just seems to be everyone is in the games. I think the games have gone through a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
But bubbling away under all of that is still the trading card game.
Yep.
That's still huge. When we were kids, do you remember that was a phenomenon?
Oh, that was crazy.
I don't think there was anything bigger before or
like
since.
It was probably the first thing to get banned in school.
Right, yeah. Oh, I mean, look,
you know what, like
yo-yos, I'm sure were banned at some point.
You know what, like that was like the big thing is like everybody brought their Pokemon cards to school, and then a month later, okay, nobody can bring their Pokemon cards to school.
Do you know? I remember the last straw at my school.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Someone got stabbed.
What?
Not at my school, though.
Oh, okay.
So there was a big news report about, a kid in New South Wales has been stabbed over a trading card gone wrong. And the school went, that's it. No more Pokemon. And we went, what, Pokemon cards? And they went, Yes, Pokemon, anything. And anything Pokemon related was just flat out banned.
Oh, wow.
Partly, I think, because, let's face it, teachers would have been sick of it.
Yeah.
They would have been over it so quickly. I get that. That's fine.
All my stories in English were about
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, like it's such a big thing, and I think it sort of went through a period where it was like super massive. Everybody was right into it, and then I mean, for me, I reached high school and it was kind of like something I had to hide.
yeah.
I wasn't allowed to tell people that I liked Pokemon because
No.
that was lame.
That's right.
Cheesy, and then all of a sudden it came back around again. It was just like,
Roaring back
whatever,
in.
play Pokemon. Yeah, I
Yep.
do. Of course I do.
Yep.
And
love
Pokemon
it.
Go comes out, and everybody's smashing that. on their
Pokemon
phones.
Go, which was the most hectic fortnight, I think, in the world
Everybody
of Pokemon.
was out.
Everyone. So, my partner, who someone recently said to me, my girlfriend's becoming the third member of this podcast.
Yeah.
And I reference her, the unseen member, the
It's
unspoken
fantastic.
member.
To get her on one episode.
She and I went to Sydney last year to go on a cruise.
Yep.
And I remember being really annoyed walking around Sydney Harbour and looking at the gorgeous views in the Opera House, and there's 10,000 people sitting at the harbour, all staring at their phones,
Brilliant.
all walking around catching pollywags or whatever.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend starts doing it, and she's going, "This is so much fun. Why aren't you into it?" And I'm like, "Well,
It's
this,
not why I came on.
this isn't why I came here." And then I never got into
I mean,
Pokemon Go.
I did promise that I would travel far and wide.
That was a theme song. It wasn't a pledge. It wasn't an
I thought
oath.
that's what it was.
No.
I thought Pokemon was a cult.
Well, very nearly is. The thing that annoyed me about Pokemon Go, though, to me, Pokemon is pure escapism.
Yep.
I can lose myself in a Pokemon game for hours.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go outside and explore people's backyards for that. You know?
See, I think it has a great premise. For me, and I'm sure it's difficult to do. It'd be a massive scale thing, but for me, I wish it was more like the games.
Yeah.
In terms of, I wish I could go outside, find Pokemon, catch them like you do, but then train them up, level them up, evolve them like normal, trade them with my friends, find somebody on the street and battle them.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been there. And I think these features are getting rolled into the game gradually.
Yeah.
But, and it would have been cool if there were certain special locations around major cities where you could go battle gym leaders and earn badges and
that'd be
become
cool.
the very
I mean,
best,
apparently that's a thing. Like there's certain hotspots where there was a spate of people just pulling up randomly in their cars next to parks for a bit and just sitting there.
That's not sus.
No, I know, right? Yeah.
Hey kid, want to play some Pokemon?
Stranger danger. And there was 3 teams.
Yeah.
Remember that? There was like Articuno team
so it's Valor, Mystic, and the other one.
Right.
Actually, we're going to get hate mail.
We are going to get, from the other one supporters. Yeah.
Something with an I.
I don't even know.
Yellow, I think. Yeah.
God, I'm
sorry,
not sure.
Yellow.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, not really our thing. Should we talk about the other controversial thing about Pokemon?
Well,
that you and I share?
Are you getting into the controversy for us? Is that what we're leading to?
Oh, I mean, in the sense that we might be the only 2 people in the world that think Pokemon Sun and Moon
weren't that great. Yeah.
Well, I'd go further. I'd say they're the worst iterations of the Pokemon games.
Yeah, I think they're the bottom for me.
Yeah.
They had its perfect formula, and I mean, sure,
and then they ruined it. They ruined
we've discussed,
it, James.
Sure, we're all in favor of making improvements and changing things up, mixing things up a little bit, but they just, I don't know what.
I think I said to you beforehand, the first thing I noticed was how good the graphics were.
Yeah.
But that should be something we take for granted.
No, I would play a great game if it looked like Red and Blue.
Yeah. Well, I do. I said to you off air, I've gone back and started playing Heart Gold.
Yeah.
Graphics in that are fine.
Yeah.
They're not 3D.
And it's not why you're playing the game.
No, exactly. I'm playing it for the gameplay.
It's additional.
And I'm playing it to actually go and battle a gym leader.
Yeah.
For example.
Why did they take that out?
I don't know. I don't
So
get
for
it.
those who are still listening for some reason and aren't into Pokemon, basically the main premise.
Can I interrupt? Sorry. If you're not a Pokemon fan, this episode is not going to be friendly to you.
Sorry.
But yeah, do your best.
So basically, I mean, most of the games have been you go around, you collect Pokemon, you train them up to make them stronger. There's obviously various types that are strong against other types. It's an advanced game of rock, paper, scissors. Fire is weak to water. Water. Are you baffled by that? Are you like, whoa?
No, that's just the best analogy for what Pokemon is that I've ever heard. Rock, paper, scissors with monsters.
Yeah.
That's
So
brilliant.
you got,
Oh my God.
water is powerful against fire. Fire is powerful against grass. Grass soaks up water. So, and there's obviously more types than that. And the basic premise is you go around training up Pokemon, and you would battle gyms, and there'd be 8 gyms in the region, and you'd beat them to prove your worth.
And each gym would specialize in a certain type.
Yeah.
So you would have to have or get or train up the opposing types.
Different types of Pokemon.
And the strategy was then in what Pokemon you had with you that you could then build up to beat the gym. Yeah. Sun and Moon didn't have gyms.
They took out gyms, and they had like quests, little quests that aren't really quests.
Yes, and it's
like I had to go into a cave and fight a couple of Pokemon that were like just nesting, really.
Yeah.
They weren't bothering anybody, they're just nesting.
That's a good point. They were minding their own damn business.
To go in, fight them, and then you get the right to go fight the head honcho of the island.
And then you beat him really easily.
And that's all over. It's like, well, there's no challenge here. And instead of 8 gyms across the whole region, there was 4 head honcho guys, whatever
Something
they were
like
called.
That.
Island kahunas, I think.
Yeah. I think I didn't finish the game. I just lost patience with it. But I was saying to you too, the Pokemon I had that I just used constantly was this new version of Muck.
Yeah.
They just dominated everything. The
Alolan. Yeah. So yeah, they introduced these Alolan variants of Pokemon, which is a great idea. So basically the idea, like in regular zoology, there's animals that are one way in one area and another way they've adapted.
Well, it's even more specific than that. It's islandification or island isolation. Something. There's a. Here we go. I know everything on this. I'm going to interrupt you and then get it wrong.
No.
But the idea is basically if a species evolves isolated on an island or in its own little pocket, it will evolve very differently to the rest of the population.
Yep.
So you see that in our very first episode. We talked about Bigfoot.
Yep.
I talked about Homo floresiensis, the tiny hobbit human.
Okay. Yeah.
It grew small, isolated on that island.
That's all it needed.
But that's all it needed. It grew to adapt to those conditions. So yeah, it's kind of art imitating life in that those Pokemon live in this different region and they look different, slightly different. But what was your gripe with it? I quite like this.
I mean, they advertised the hell out of this. They said, there's all new Alolan type Pokemon that you can get. And there were 18, I think, grand total.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you promoted this big feature.
Yeah.
And there's hardly any of them to catch.
Yeah.
Give us 50. Give us a challenge. Like, you haven't given us that many new Pokemon to collect.
No, that's right. And it was like
something else to do.
The big thing prior to that was in X and Y when they had Mega Evolutions.
Yeah, and I think there was about 30 odd of those.
Yeah.
Which is a reasonable.
Was there?
There's a fair chunk.
I remember there being less, but regardless, it was hard to do. You had to go and find the item to make your Pokemon Mega Evolve.
Yeah.
You had to actually go and find those stones.
Yep.
And it was only certain final forms that could do it, and you could only do it once in a battle. And it was sort of worth doing. Like, you got a big advantage for doing the hard work to do it.
Yep.
This was just randomly, look, this Marowak's actually a ghost form as well.
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. So it's even easier to beat.
Yeah.
Great. This Muck,
it looks different.
This Muck is like techno-colored, and it's dark type now as well. Oh, so it's unbeatable, pretty much. Poison dark. Oh, great. All right, I'm just going to end the game with this. And then you're right. And then if it was every single Pokemon that looked different,
well, not even every single, but like I said, throw in a good 50 to 100.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting feature.
Yeah.
Whereas right now it's just a tiny little gimmick.
It would make me more excited about going back and catching the original Pokemon
all over again.
Again, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to do it twice because you got to trade over the original versions of those Pokemon.
Do you though? I mean,
but that's the appeal. There's so many different aspects of Pokemon you can train, you can collect, you can.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, something I would have liked to see with the Alolan thing. There's an ice type Sandshrew, but it's not ground type anymore, and it's still called Sandshrew. So why not just say, well, yes, it's like the Alolan form of that, but now it's its own Pokemon with its own entry, and it's called Snowshrew.
I mean that's,
it looks the same. It's essentially the same thing.
I mean that's a crap name. But I get your point. Yeah. That's right.
Let's add in an extra 18 new Pokemon.
Right. Yeah.
To the Pokedex.
Yeah.
That are related to.
I like that. Actually, I really like that. Yeah.
I think
there was very little. In fact, the starter Pokemon and that didn't get me excited either.
Yeah.
There was the best one. The one I picked was a cat.
Was Litten.
I don't like cats.
And
it evolved into Tony the Tiger.
It did.
How
great.
Great. Yeah, didn't get me excited. Didn't do anything different. James, we're talking about this topic this week.
Yeah.
Because
Well, firstly, I mean, coming out first is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which we're both probably
we're going to avoid.
Yeah, I'll probably end up buying it and just I don't know. Team
Judas.
Rocket's in it.
Judas.
They brought Team Rocket back.
I couldn't care less.
Anyways.
Okay, look, you play it first, and if it's fixed all the things we didn't like about it, I'll borrow your copy. Maybe I'll consider borrowing your copy. But anyway.
But the other thing is, I mean, the anime is not just the game. Obviously, we talked about the anime was a big thing too. So that premiered in April 1997 in Japan, and we got it around the same time we got the games in September of 1998. So the anime itself has been going for 20 years in Japan.
That was always my Pokemon.
Yeah.
My Pokemon was always the TV show.
Yeah, fair enough.
The games were sort of secondary, and being an adult now, I can't tell you the last time I saw an episode of Pokemon.
It's even though weird. They've changed the animation style.
Yeah, okay.
But something that looks really cool is the new movie that's coming out, the 20th anniversary movie. It's called Pokemon the Movie, I Choose You. Mm-hmm. And they've gone back and they've revisited essentially the very first episode of Ash meeting Pikachu for the first time. And they go out, Pikachu doesn't want to be there at all.
Yep.
And they fight a big flock of Spearow and they come together. It's
great.
It's just
it looks
nostalgia.
Great. It looks really good.
The animation looks stunning.
But there's all the new Pokemon in it as well.
Yeah, so right? I mean, they obviously still got to appeal to the general audience.
But that's fine. Yeah. I'm linking a little bit to my argument here, but there's nothing wrong with going back and going, no, those Pokemon were always there.
Yeah.
You just didn't get to see them until this point.
Yep.
Okay, but yeah, the Pokemon I Choose You is coming out.
So yeah, I think it is coming out this month as well.
Cool.
So it might be a bit weird for a nearly 30-year-old man to go to the cinemas to see a Pokemon movie, but hey. Okay. But the Pokemon world is such a crazy, vast universe. There's so many fans. Everybody's sort of fanatic about it for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to go into. I mean, I'm going into a one particular fan theory, but there are some other little cool fan theories that people have developed.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have something so big without loose ends.
Yeah, and people sort of developing their own way to tie up those loose.
Interpret different things.
True.
Yeah. Gengar is Clefable's shadow, is what you've got written down here.
Yeah, so have you not heard this theory?
No, I have, but I've only sort of read it and seen pictures and gone, oh, they do look alike.
Yeah. Well, so Gengar is referred to as, like, its classification is Shadow Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually look at it, its ears and everything line up perfectly with Clefable's. Clefable's got a little tuft on the front of its head that's a swirl.
Yeah.
Whereas Gengar
has got spikes. I'm actually looking at the Gengar on your t-shirt. Yeah.
So everything else, other than the tuft in the middle, is exactly the same.
Yeah, it's very, it's like the pure darkness incarnated Clefable.
Gengar being a ghost type.
But what I love about that, though, is that if that's true, it's never been mentioned, as far as I'm aware, not been officially mentioned in canon.
Yeah, no.
And I like that.
Yep.
I like having the world so big, it's even got secrets within the world. Or things that aren't quite explained.
They don't need to be.
They don't need to be. Yeah. That's fine. I like that.
What about what are yours that you've?
The one I suggested was Cubone. Long been talked about how Cubone should actually be the original.
Well, it should be a divergent, pre-evolution, a pre-stage of Kangaskhan. The idea being that Kangaskhan is Cubone's mother, died, and that's the skull that Cubone's wearing on its head.
Yep.
And then in that state, it evolves into Marowak.
Yeah, which is Marowak's a disappointing Pokemon.
Whereas if Cubone didn't have the skull on its head, it would evolve into a Kangaskhan.
Which Kangaskhan is seriously lacking that first form.
Yeah.
Considering it's the only Pokemon in existence that's got a junior form of it, constantly with it, and it's just a small Kangaskhan that's a different color. No, that's not how this world works, firstly. But I was going to say to you I found a little twist on that theory.
Okay.
The one thing that's always bothered me about that Cubone theory is that the skull it wears on its head doesn't look like a Kangaskhan head.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you stretch and you look at it and you just sort of go, oh, yeah, okay, it's just a skull, whatever. It does look a heck of a lot like a Charizard skull.
Okay.
Yeah, are you with me?
Yeah.
You following this? So the theory goes that in one of the very early Gen 1 episodes, it talks about, again, we're looking back at your shirt, looking at the Charizard on the shirt. There's no Marowak on there, though, is there? There's no Cubone. No, disappointing. Anyway, the theory goes that in the original Pokemon series, just Season 1, when Ash meets his Charizard friend, a Charmander friend, they talk about if a Charmander's flame goes out, it could die.
Yep.
Right? So imagine a wild Charmander being raised by a Charizard mother.
Okay.
The Charizard starts the flame on the Charmander's tail with a flamethrower or something.
Yep.
What if it's not got a mother? What if the mother's died before it hatches from the egg?
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
it just doesn't get a flame.
Yep.
Instead, it adapts, and rather than becoming a fire type, it becomes an earthy ground type,
Yep.
which is what Cubone is. And in morning, it takes the Charizard skull and puts the Charizard skull on its head.
Okay. Wow, I like that.
Isn't it good?
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was brand new to me the other day when I researched it, but I thought that actually fits better than the Kangaskhan theory to my mind.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I like that. I do.
Yeah. You can have that
sort
one.
of, okay. Since we've gone into the grim topic of Pokemon dying.
Oh, you just
know,
have to one-up me here, don't you?
Poor Charizard mother passing away, leaving Cubone abandoned.
Yeah, that's a part of life.
There's a sort of a long-standing theory. This has been one that's talked about since very early on.
I love this one.
The idea that in Pokemon Red and Blue, you killed your rival's Raticate.
Because you're a heartless bastard.
Because your Pokemon are that strong. You've trained them up that much that they didn't faint.
No.
And Raticate passed away.
Yeah, your level 16 War Turtle really did some damage in that battle. Yeah.
So I think you fight him. I mean, you fight Blue on the SSN, the ship.
Yep.
And that's the
when
last
you're going
time.
to Vermilion.
Well, you're in Vermilion City on the ship. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, in the port there.
Yep.
And you fight him there in the captain's cabin.
Yep.
That's the last time I think that you see his Raticate.
Hmm.
The next time you encounter Blue, he's at in Lavender
Town, yeah.
at the Pokemon Tower where all the Pokemon are buried.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say he's there for any particular reason.
No, he's just there.
But when you battle him, his Raticate's not on his team anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could have just put his Raticate away, but all his other team members are there. His Raticate's just noticeably absent.
That's right.
So the idea is that you fought him on the SSN, brutally injured his Raticate, and he's gone to the Pokemon Cemetery, and he doesn't hold it against you. He's gone to the Pokemon Cemetery, buried his Raticate, but it's changed him. From then on, he's just solid, like ambitious, and I am going to not letting anything stand in my way. So I'm now going to just focus.
Sorry to keep cutting in, but maybe the Raticate dying then is more on him. Maybe he didn't.
He was too cocky.
Yeah, it was
there
way
is
too
sort
cocky.
of a noticeable difference in his characterization. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a very 2D sort of
yeah, but
text, and
I'd have to look
emotion,
through. I'd have to look through what he's saying.
He seems more focused on his goal to actually bunker down, train properly, and become the league champion.
Not just willy-nilly throw Pokemon into a battle.
Yeah, just be I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm going to beat you no matter what.
Oh, I love it. Who'd have known? Who'd have thought it'd be so dark?
So the other one that's kind of cool, the idea that Ditto is a failed attempt to clone Mew.
Yeah,
so,
this is another one. I only just discovered this week. Have you known about this one for a while?
I've known about it for a little while. Yeah.
And you didn't tell me.
I'm sorry. But no, tell us what you've learned.
Okay, what I found out was, again, going back to the original Gen 1 games, you're playing Red. A lot of what we talk about today is going to be Gen 1 related. I think
that's the easiest, most accessible way for anybody listening.
Yeah, that and we're from that generation.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow up with the Game Boy Advance ones.
No.
You know, Emerald and whatever they were. So anyway, I've lost it, James.
Well,
you go to Cinnabar Island.
Yep.
I remember. I always remembered it as Cinnabon Island, which is not correct. You go to Cinnabar Island and there's a lab there.
Yes.
And in the lab you can catch like Growliths and Vulpix and things, but you can also catch Dittos in there. That lab is, according to a bunch of people that work there, the site where they worked on Mewtwo.
Well, there's notebooks in there that talk about how they discovered Mew, how they encountered it.
That's right.
Got the fossil and
Yeah, so the idea was that they were trying to reincarnate a Mew. They were trying to bring
Mew
it back.
apparently has the DNA of all Pokemon in it.
So it's like
you have Ditto.
It's like the founder of
that can mimic all Pokemon.
Interesting. They're also the only two Pokemon that can learn Transform.
Yep.
And their base stats are apparently very similar, if not the same.
Wow, there you go.
So there's a
lot.
They're
pink.
They are both pink.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like if your very first crack at cloning something, you're not going to be successful and create a friggin' Mewtwo, this psychic powerhouse.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, as soon as I've got a Mewtwo on my team,
it's all over.
Forget about it.
Forget about
it. It's done. You give it Thunderbolt, you give it Flamethrower, you give it Ice Beam,
all
Psychic.
the things.
I give it all offensive moves.
Yep. That's my approach to Pokemon in general. Is I don't have time for Leer and Growl and
barrier.
Tail Whip. Yeah, barrier.
No. Yeah, when you're first battling your opponent and he thinks he's got to get the edge on you, the opponent.
Use Tail Whip a few times.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I've knocked you out in those two times.
You fool. Keep using Tackle. Growl, your attack dropped. Not enough. It's not enough. You've just given me one more turn to hit you.
And that's it. Yeah, I can use Tackle once and do massive damage, or twice with half of the attack power and still do the same amount of damage.
I really hope there's someone listening to this for the first time and they're not into Pokemon.
Yeah.
They're like, what have I stumbled upon here? What is this show?
I think you really need to just go away, grab yourself a copy of the games, sit down in front of the anime, go back to the original anime series. It's great fun.
Absolutely. If nothing else, we're going to convince you to rediscover
Pokemon. Do it.
James.
Shall we get into it? I've got a really good theory for you.
You do. So, now, before you started, this is not new to me. I've heard of it.
Okay.
But
I'm going to convince you why it is actually the case.
Great,
okay?
because it's a cool little theory that I've heard of that there was this thing. I'll let you. Okay.
All right. So in the Pokemon games, when you start it up, your father is noticeably absent. Okay. He's not there. You walk down into the kitchen and there's your mother sitting there wishing you well, and she's happy to let her 10-year-old son go off and explore the world.
I always just thought this was art imitating life. I mean, my father was never there for me in the big moments of my life. I love you, Dad, if you're listening.
So in the games, like, your father's not there. Where did he go? Did he and your mother get a divorce? Did he run out? Or perhaps did he go off to war and never return?
God, that went dark so quick, didn't it?
So, what war, you might ask? Well, I'm talking about the Great Pokemon War, sometimes referred to as the Great Kanto War. It's not expressly mentioned in Pokemon Red and Blue, but there are some indicators and references that a war took place. Fans have been developing this theory for many years now. For my discussion today, one of the most helpful and thorough descriptions of the theory came from the website's The Insightful Panda.
The Insightful Panda?
Yes, very insightful. So credit to them. They've really fleshed this theory out. I will link that full breakdown theory that they've done in the description on YouTube. You can find it. You won't be able to find it on iTunes, but
all we want in return from them is all of their subscribers. That's all. We just want their figures. That's all.
So that's where a lot of this information came from. Big shout out to the Insightful Panda. Thank you. As I mentioned, your father isn't around. Your rival Blue and his sister Daisy are also orphaned. They are being raised by their grandfather, Professor Oak.
I hadn't noticed that, but that's very true, yeah.
Throughout the games, many of the other trainers that you encounter are children or elderly people. There's not a lot of adults around.
No.
Where are the adults?
Well, the adults that I can immediately think of, there's like Nurse Jenny.
Nurse
Joy. Officer Jenny in the show.
Yeah.
But they're of the fairer sex. So,
there's not a lot of males around. The males that are around tend to be involved in the military or are they're in criminal organizations, Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Or other crime. There is a trainer class called Burglar.
Yes.
I think.
Yep, there is.
Yes.
Yep.
Probably one of the biggest pieces of evidence for this theory is when you encounter Lieutenant Surge, the gym leader of Vermilion City.
That's right.
Obviously, he holds the rank of lieutenant, but that's not all. Okay. So before your battle, he says to you, "Hey kid, what do you think you're doing here? You won't live long in combat, that's for sure." Now, he could just be referring to Pokemon battles as combat, but he then goes on to say, "I tell you kid, electric Pokemon saved me during the war.
That's right.
They zapped my enemies into paralysis."
I'm sure he mentioned something about war.
Yeah.
And then you got to it. You mentioned the fact that he zapped his... So
Lieutenant Surge,
he's used electric Pokemon in some sort of a conflict.
He was in a war, and a war he refers to simply as the war, like you should know about it, like it's something. Something that you'd be knowledgeable of.
Yeah, no one in 1919, no one was walking around going, last year during World War One.
Yes.
No, it was the war.
Yes.
Yeah. It was fresh in everyone's minds.
And so, from all of his character artwork, he doesn't look very old. Maybe he's in his 30s, 40s at oldest.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So this means that the war had to have occurred relatively recently, like within the last 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And how old is your character in the game?
10.
He's 10. So if the war occurred just within the last 10 years, that means your father, Father Jew,
Yep.
brought you into existence.
What do you mean by fathered? What?
Well, he was involved in the process.
Yeah, but how? What? How is that? How does that happen?
They're just mummies and daddies really love each other. So, and then he went off to war.
I really can't bait you anymore on that, can I?
No, he went off to war, and here you are. You've grown up into a 10-year-old.
A fine young man.
Yes.
Who's willing to enslave sentient beings and have them battle for you.
Yeah, cockfighting, really.
Yeah. Darwinism meets cockfighting.
So, that sort of timeline there sort of lines up. If Lieutenant Surge was in a war, it sort of lines up with how old you are and if your father was involved.
Yep.
Yeah, that explains that.
Yeah.
Throughout the region of Kanto, there is very limited infrastructure. So there are predominantly homes, gyms, and hospitals. So this is a region that is rebuilding.
And like a shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very bare bones, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially early in the game when all you can get is like a potion, an awakening, and Pokeballs.
Yes. So it's a region that's rebuilding. And these are just the essential buildings that exist, okay?
Yeah, okay, I like this.
People throughout the game seem on edge.
Yep.
You know, they're probably traumatized. They're suffering from anxiety from the war. Professor Oak seems wary of letting you leave the town without the protection of a Pokemon.
Sure.
Security guards won't let you enter Saffron City for no real good reason.
Yeah.
Even Lieutenant Surge is protected behind a security system at his gym.
That was fun. But I remember now, I'm casting back to Saffron City, and yeah, you just couldn't walk in for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no good reason.
in the newer games they got better at that. They found like, oh, there was no power in the town, or we're building the road, or you've got to learn strength or whatever. Back then it was just no,
you can't come.
You can't come through here.
Society as a whole, they have a major focus on combat and training.
Yes, they do.
Perhaps a mindset that has lingered from the war.
Okay.
Also, there's a distinct lack of communication between the other regions. So could these lines of communication have been destroyed during the war?
Yeah.
Professor Oak doesn't know about the 750-ish other Pokemon that exist.
Yeah, he's a crap professor. He's not good at what he does.
Which leads me to my next point, the Pokedex. Now, the Pokedex, you go around, you find all the Pokemon, you record them. The Pokedex is actually a means to recollect and verify information that was lost during the war.
Okay, that makes a lot
of sense. And to locate and record which Pokemon species survived the conflict.
That's interesting because the Pokedex is hinted at in the story of the first games as being the real quest.
Yes.
The real reason you're going out there isn't just to battle people and collect Pokemon. Well, it is to collect Pokemon and update the Pokedex.
Yes.
That's what Oak wants you to do.
And because of this, because you're going around, you're rediscovering what survived the conflict,
Yep.
It might explain why Mew appears as the 151st Pokemon,
Oh.
while Mewtwo appears before it as 150th.
Okay.
So if you were going around recording Pokemon that survived, you'd encounter Mewtwo.
Yep.
You'd put it in the Pokedex.
Mm.
And you'd just go, well, I know about Mew, but it's long since extinct. I'm not going to record it.
I see.
And then you encounter a Mew and go, oh,
quick.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tack that on the end.
I'm going to have to, do some dodgy...
151.
Right, yeah. Because Mew did exist as a Gen 1 Pokemon, didn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but it was the...
It was the event thing. You had to go.
Right, that's right.
Go get it downloaded to your game at a special event.
You did that, didn't you?
I did. I went to Maya in the city.
Yep.
And had to line up. And I think I took my friend's game.
Okay.
And got a Mew for him as well at the same time.
That's good of you.
Yeah. So
I never did any of that. I don't... Anyway.
That would explain, because it's always been something that bugged me. Why is Mewtwo before Mew
right.
in the Pokédex?
Yeah, why have we discovered the sequel before the original?
Exactly.
Well, the sequel's much better.
Yeah. And the other thing, so Mewtwo itself, often get referred to, and especially in the anime, it's referred to as the ultimate weapon.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So,
didn't Team Rocket, I think in one of the movies, was it the first movie?
Yeah.
Giovanni
was working on. Well, he funded the research, so it wasn't a Team Rocket thing. He was funding the research to develop Mewtwo.
Right.
So was Mewtwo perhaps be in development to help win the war?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's all well and good to suggest that a war took place, but what
is it? Wars aren't a happy thing.
I mean,
to
no,
suggest,
but
James,
it's all easy to just go, a war took place, okay?
Yeah.
But I mean, what was the war about?
Mm.
So the strongest theory seems to suggest that it was between neighboring regions Kanto and Johto.
Okay.
And the attempts of Kanto to annex the latter. to take over Johto.
Yep.
And I mean, why was it annexation and not Johto trying to secede from Kanto, separate? I mean, that's another reason for a conflict, is they want to separate.
Yep.
Well, because if Johto was already a part of Kanto and they were wanting to leave,
we would know about the
surely
other
the region's 100 extra Pokemon would be known to Professor Oak and the people of Kanto.
Yeah.
So no, Johto was still a relatively unknown territory to the invading Kanto army. And now, while Kanto is a fairly modern region, Johto is a land steeped in history and tradition with a lot of older style Japanese architecture.
Very true.
The one main exception to this is Goldenrod City. It's a sprawling metropolis in contrast to the rest of the region. The city is even described as a developing city where people and Pokemon come and go as they like. So the city is still being developed.
Okay.
Perhaps because it's relatively new. So Kanto won the war, and construction of Goldenrod City began as a way to bring Johto into modern times and unite the regions.
This is really harking back to, in actual history, Japan was very isolationist until America rocked up on its doorstep with a bunch of gunships and said, "You're going to trade with us." Japan said no. And they went, "Well, that's a shame because these big guns on our big boats say differently. Trade with us," and then really dragged them kicking and screaming into the modern world. So is it the same thing that Kanto has rocked up to Johto and gone, "Yeah, you guys are ours now.
Yep.
And you're going to modernize.
We're going to bring you into the 21st century."
Okay.
So Goldenrod City is also the location of Johto's monorail station.
Yes, it is.
Links the two regions together.
In Heart Gold, you can go back and visit Johto and
Kanto.
Kanto. Sorry. Yep.
So this station would be the arrival point for many people traveling there. So they arrive into Johto and they see this grand new city that Kanto has constructed.
And then you can also be a tourist and check out all the history.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I like this.
Additionally, Whitney seems to be the only Johto gym leader who isn't necessarily an expert in their field or doesn't come from a long line of influential people. So you've got Falkner, you've got Morty, Chuck, Claire. They all come from these families that long line of tradition to have led these gyms.
And Whitney's some upstart with a pain in the ass mill tank that keeps using rollout that you can't beat the first 3 times you battle her because rollout just gets stronger and stronger every time it happens.
Yes. So many rematches with Whitney.
You think you're on top of that game until you get to that third gym. Yeah.
So she is just a wild card, isn't she? This region, it's steeped in history and tradition. So the other 7 gym leaders would have been selected by the people of Johto, but Whitney was placed there as gym leader of Goldenrod City because it's really Kanto City.
So she's like a proxy gym leader or something, or she's a symbol for the new Johto or something. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's youthful, She's a strong-willed young woman.
She's certainly the youngest.
I think she'd be one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that bug leader.
Bugsy.
But like you say...
Yeah, that's his name.
Bugsy.
Bugsy.
Oh, God.
So off the back of that, I want to go in a little bit into the Pokemon League itself. So in other regions, they have their own autonomous Pokemon League.
Mm-hmm.
But Kanto and Johto share one located at Indigo Plateau. So I think this is because the Pokemon League is kind of like the government of the Pokemon world. So when Kanto won the war, they set up this league to govern both regions, and they placed the headquarters smack dab in the middle of the two.
They did too.
Lance, he's originally a member of the Elite Four and later acting champion in Red's place.
Mm-hmm.
He travels through Johto in Pokemon Gold and Silver on the trail of Team Rocket. What would give him the authority to investigate a criminal organization?
The fact that he's
an agent of the Pokemon League, and Johto's under their jurisdiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So another indicator that the Pokemon League is in its relative infancy.
Also, sorry, I know you're meant to be convincing me here, but I'm liking this. He uses Kanto Pokemon.
Yeah.
He uses a Dragonair.
Yep.
Which is original 150 Pokemon.
Yeah.
While he's got authority in Johto.
He's come from Kanto.
He's clearly come from Kanto.
Yes, exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. So another indicator that the Pokemon League is in its relative infancy is the existence of 2 gyms in Saffron City. So
the fighting gym.
You would remember that the official psychic gym is led by Sabrina, but you also have the fighting dojo.
Yeah.
It's got gym written all over the front door.
Yep.
So the story goes, in the games, this is the story. It's actually mentioned to you. The 2 gyms battled it out to see which would become the gym for Saffron City. Naturally, the psychic types had an easy victory.
Yeah. The fighting types did not think that through at all.
Surely, yeah. So surely the fighting dojo would have known they didn't stand a chance. So why was it so important to them? I think they felt that they were worthy of being in the official gym because of the role that they played in the war against Johto.
Fighting types would be very handy in a war.
In red and blue, psychic types are incredibly powerful with very little being effective against them.
They had to create a brand new...
Gold and silver introduced the dark type.
That's right, yeah.
Meaning there were dark type Pokemon in Johto. So if the Johto army fought with these mysterious dark type Pokemon, they would have had an advantage over psychic types, which many people thought were near impervious.
They're weak against fighting types.
They're weak to fighting types.
Wow.
So this is why the fighting dojo felt that they were worthy candidates.
So they're all like, okay, so you psychic guys with all your great big powers and rah, you were crap in the war. You were beaten pretty easily. We were the grunts on the ground defeating the dark types.
Doing the work, yeah.
Doing the real work. And then we come back home and you won't even let us be the major gym in our hometown. Yeah. We deserve a place.
Fantastic, isn't it?
This is blowing. When I said I knew about this theory, I'd heard it in name only.
Yes.
I didn't realize just how many clues there are.
There's so many elements to it. So, with all that in mind, did a great Pokemon War take place before the events of Pokemon
Yes,
Red
it
and
did.
Blue?
Yes, it did. I'm totally convinced. Yeah. Also, while I'm thinking of it too, because I'm totally convinced here. I've just thought of we talked about Lavender Town before.
Yes.
Lavender Town's basically one great big cemetery.
There's a few things there.
The tower there. Maybe
that's
the tower.
That's the main tourist.
Yeah, okay. Morbid. But I'm just thinking, you don't just build a tall tower to bury things in. That implies that there's a need for mass burial. Yeah. Very dark and morbid, I know, but if a lot of ordinary trainers took their Pokemon into war with them, and they fought on their behalf, and the Pokemon died, that would make sense that they wouldn't just they would go to the traditional Lavender Town graveyard, cemetery.
Okay, yep.
Too full already, so they build a tower to...
It is a weird way. Yeah, okay.
But that could kind of fit in that as well, couldn't it?
I like that.
Yeah. No, I'm hook, line, and sinker, mate. I love that. Thank you for bringing that to the table. That was really good.
Thank you.
Mine's a bit more of, let's just talk about a whole bunch of bugbears in mine.
Okay. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is something you and I have talked about before, but I found a couple of examples that we haven't really talked about, you and I. My argument, James, I'm going to try and convince you and the listeners that Pokemon evolution is broken.
Yes, okay.
Needs a retcon.
Okay.
We need to go back to the beginning and fix it because it was broken from the beginning.
From the beginning?
From the very beginning. Gen 1, it was broken. Okay?
Oh, now I'm really intrigued.
See?
I thought I knew your approach, but wow, spanner in the works. Here we go.
Yeah, you think you can read my tactics, but I've evolved. I've thrown some fairy type moves in amongst my arguments. And,
I'm sorry.
And this reference has fallen apart completely. So we're all aware that certain evolutions are a pain, right? Trade evolutions.
Okay.
I mean, I give you Eradicate. Yeah.
Yes.
You give me a Haunter.
Yes.
That then turns into a Gengar. I'm not giving you that Gengar back.
Yeah.
You can suffer with Eradicate. All right. No, I'm keeping this.
Yeah.
You imagine the first time someone worked that out. Hey, check it out. That Pokemon you just gave me evolved into this kick-ass Dark type. No, you're not getting it back.
No.
Enjoy the Butterfree I just sent you. You know. No, that's terrible. Location evolutions. This is something that you and I have whinged about a fair bit. So why is it that we've got to take our Eevee to a certain rock in the game that only occurs once? It's got to have the right level of happiness. It's got to be a certain time of day. You got to hold your friggin' Game Boy facing the sun or whatever.
Hold your breath.
Hold your breath.
What it is like.
Yeah. Push A twice and then rotate counterclockwise.
Konami code.
Yeah. Just use a Leaf Stone.
Yes. I know I couldn't use a Leaf Stone in the very first game, but who cares?
Who cares? Exactly. Now you can. Now we've discovered that Leaf Stones work on Eevees.
Yeah.
One line of dialogue, it works. Yeah, my least favourite is a cross between the both. So trading with an item.
The worst of it, I think, is Porygon.
Yeah.
You have to trade it with an upgrade to get Porygon 2, and then you have to trade it again with a dubious disc to get Porygon Z, and it's like...
I'm sorry, it's just not worth it.
No.
I mean, unless you're really collecting them. And I always just wanted to build a good team to beat the game with.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's not worth it.
No.
It's just so not. So, the other one is Slowbro. Hang on, Slow King. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to trade a
King's Rock.
Yeah, with a King's Rock attached to it.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not even. Is it even that good a Pokemon to be worthy of getting that item and trading it and then trading it back? I don't know. Write in and convince me that it is. I don't actually care. We're also well aware that there are a bunch of missing evolutions from the game. Stuff that seems really obvious. We talked about Kangaskhan. Not a baby form. Get stuffed. I'm sorry. Like, oh, Pikachu's got a pre-evolution. Oh, cool. We never knew about that before. Yeah, you're right. We didn't know about that before. How do we work this in? Oh, it's a brand new type of Pokemon. And like a whole bunch of other Pokemon have a baby form as well. No, they've just got a pre-evolution. There's nothing wrong with Ash starting with the middle evolved form.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, also Politoed can just piss off. No, we got to the end of that evolution chain. If you wanted to include Politoed, it's a brand new Pokemon.
Yeah.
Give that a pre-evolution too. It doesn't even look like the originals. So, what if I was to say to you that not only do we need to go back and fix those obvious mistakes. Oh, sorry, I've got a bunch of other ones here too that I forgot to mention to you.
Please, rattle them off.
We'll fix that in editing. Farfetch'd should obviously evolve into Doduo. You know, that's one that's always been around. Cubone, we've talked about, could be a pre-evolution to Kangaskhan if you really wanted to make it that way. That's fine.
I would say you'd probably want to have a separate pre-stage without a skull on its head, and then it could sort of branch off either way.
Yeah, you could find a way to do that, sure. Miltank and Taurus should obviously have a shared pre-evolution. They're so similar.
That evolves whether it's male or female.
That's right. In the later generations of the game, they introduced Bouffalont, that buffalo with a big hairstyle. How is that not an evolved form of Tauros?
So going back to what I said before about the Alolan forms, that should be like the
That's
alternate
a perfect
form
example,
of Tauros. That
isn't
should
it?
be, it's a whole separate Pokemon.
Yeah.
But it is essentially...
Instead, it's almost like someone walked into a meeting. Okay, Jeremy, have you brought in your 10 brand new Pokemon? Here's a Buffalo Soldier one. It's a buffalo with a big afro.
That just looks like Taurus. No, but he's got a big afro.
All right, fine. It's deadline day. Rush it through.
It's better than the ice cream one, so bring it in. Put it in.
I can't believe we included that. So there's a bunch of them that really need to go back and just fix them. They look so obvious in her. Also, Remoraid.
Yes.
How does that evolve into Octillery? One's a fish and it evolves into an octopus with a... Okay, whatever. I'm just really nitpicking now. But there are bigger issues here.
Okay.
In Gen 1, there are Pokemon evolutions that don't make sense when you really look at them. And there's obvious reasons as to why they may have been changed. The very first one, I'm going to try... don't be upset by this. Butterfree should evolve from Venonat.
Yes. No, I was going to bring this up.
Yeah, absolutely it should, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yep.
Got the same eyes.
It
got the
looks
same
like
antenna.
they accidentally got switched around. The sprites got switched around.
The theory that I managed to discover, which would you rather have, basically, early on in the game? Would you rather have a Venomoth or a Butterfree?
Yeah, okay.
Butterfree's much more cute and cuddly and...
And you're going to toss it away anyway.
Yeah, probably. It's going to get languish in your box. But it's also a great antithesis to the other 3-stage bug evolution in the games, which was Beedrill.
Yes.
So Beedrill is everything cool and aggressive and sleek and sharp. Butterfree is everything cute and approachable.
And pretty.
And pretty and everything, yeah. So it makes more sense than Venomoth, which was also very jaggedy and pointy. But Venomoth has still got more in common with Caterpie, with the head crest and segmented body types
and even
and all
the
this.
body form seems like a Metapod.
Exactly, yeah. Yep. So it makes more sense that Venonat should just evolve into Butterfree. Have that happen. That's fine. Again, there's no problem with that. You can still catch a Venonat and have a Butterfree. It's fine. Yeah, so it's an obvious switch. They've obviously changed it up for that very reason. The likeness I can draw to it is that you can get a Growlithe in one game, which evolves an Arcanine, very masculine.
Yeah,
very sort of strong and bulky, or you can get a Vulpix, which evolves into Ninetales, which is very sort of feminine and sleek looking. So I think that's the sort of comparison that they wanted to have. They wanted to have the very hyper masculine, aggressive, and the very feminine and pretty looking Pokemon.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
So that makes a bit of sense. Yep. Bearing that in mind, I'm going to try and blow your mind even further. This one might actually upset you. Love Disc should evolve into Alamomololo.
Yeah. It's the same sort of creature, really.
Yeah. Yep. Also, Dragonair should not evolve into Dragonite.
Actually, no, this is an interesting one, and it's very similar to the Venonat Butterfree type thing. And I mean, I don't know whether it's the same case, but sorry, go on.
No, that's
Continue.
cool. It's cool,
yeah.
But it is. In a lot of ways, it is. So Magikarp should evolve into Dragonite.
Yes.
And Dragonair should evolve into Gyarados.
Yeah.
Is the basic line of the argument. So let's do what we did with Venonat and Butterfree and just compare the similarities between them. Magikarp's colouring is far more in line with Dragonite's. Magikarp also has those whiskery things that come out of it.
Yep.
They bear a striking resemblance to Dragonite's antenna. So that makes sense on top of that. Now, you know the myth that Magikarp is based on.
Yes, yeah, the koi fish.
The lowly koi fish. It swims up a waterfall. The myth or the legend I found is that it gets to the top of the mountain where there's a temple. It prays to the gods, and the gods granted a wish. The wish of the Magikarp is to turn into a great, powerful dragon. So they turned it into Gyarados, which is not a dragon-type Pokemon. It's actually a water type.
Water flying.
Water flying. Doesn't even have wings, but whatever. Okay. So the gods didn't do a very good job there, is all I'm going to say. It makes a bit of sense to me that if you're going to have, in keeping with that legend, this rubbish Pokemon, which is really good for nothing, and if you keep it and level it up to the point where it evolves at, I don't know, let's say level 50 or even 46 or whatever, that it turns into one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's very in keeping with that myth, isn't it?
Yep.
And it still fits. It's still a dragon type. It's a great and powerful dragon that this lowly form can transform into. Likewise, Dragonair Dratini to this orange dragon with feet all of a sudden, it's a big stretch to make to achieve that. It makes a lot more sense that Dragonair, sleek and beautiful Dragonair, evolves into this ultimate monster. Keeps the body type, keeps the colorations, keeps the types as well. Pretty sure they're water type.
No, I think they're all just straight dragon. Yeah.
Are they too?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that can be fixed. We'll fix that in editing as well. I never said that. So they're cases of Pokemon from the original games that are clearly switched up for whatever reason. I say, while we go back and fix the real obvious ones that we want to change, so give pre-evolutions, give obvious connecting Pokemon some sort of shared evolution, all those sort of things, why not go back and fix those? Now that they've been talked about, they stand out to me. I can't look at a Dragonite anymore and think, yeah, that obviously comes from Dragonair. The only thing similar there is the name, and we can change those. James, have I convinced you that along with those new examples as well, we should go back, have a game from Gen 1 that fixes all of these Pokemon evolution problems?
I am half convinced. I am very much on board with...
One day, I'm just going to solidly convince you on something.
Have I not been convinced yet?
A couple of times. The last couple. Even last week when I argued for Nickelback, you were still like...
Yes. No, but I certainly agree that there are some that just should be fixed because it's just gotten out of hand, and Game Freak have this serious issue where they don't want to retcon anything, and they want to give you an explanation for why this didn't happen in Red and Blue now that it can in Gold.
Like we're smart enough, we'll understand that. It's just we just want new elements to the game.
So fair enough. Like Umbreon and Espeon evolve whether it's night or day for an Eevee.
That's as far as I'm willing to let that go.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
But then Moonstones and Sunstones also exist. So why do they not have the same energy radiation as the sun or the moon?
Exactly.
You know, that should work just the same way.
Is there an ice stone? There's a water stone. Is there an ice stone?
You could make something.
You can make one.
There's other stone. There's also like a shiny stone or something. So you could go, that's
not
the
hard.
Shiny
that
stone works for the ice type.
For Glaceon or whatever, which no one had.
No.
Who had one of them?
Do a leaf stone for Leafeon. Instead of saying, you have to like hold your left leg up and be in front of a mossy rock. Wow, that was English.
Was that English?
Eventually.
Are you sure that was English?
Oh, Rossi Mock.
I've been looking for this Rossi Mock for hours in this game. I can't find it. But what about those other Pokemon I mentioned to you?
So I wouldn't go as far as to completely swap around evolutions. That's where I'm not convinced. And so I understand, and I have seen what you're saying with the Magikarp and Gyarados, but I don't think it was like Venonat looks like it was a mix-up with Caterpie and Butterfree. That looks like a mix-up.
Straight up doesn't it? Yeah.
So Gyarados is very much an Asian-style dragon. That's a traditional dragon to them.
Sure.
And I know it's not a dragon type, but I think that was very specific. The mouth of Magikarp is the same on the Gyarados.
Oh, okay. The opening of the mouth.
The fins and stuff sort of match the fins on Gyarados. I think Dragonair and Dragonite both have horns. I can't recall. They do.
Dragonite
has a horn on its very
center.
center.
Very small one.
Whereas it has more of a unicorn before that.
I still don't understand though. The colouring still bothers me as well in a big way.
Change the colouring, but otherwise, I wouldn't go as far as to swap those evolutions around. At this point, I probably wouldn't even go as far as to to swap out
I could
Butterfree and Venomoth.
I'm still going to argue.
But
I'm disagreeing with you on this one.
Okay.
I really am, because I still think you can have the European-looking dragon still works with that myth.
it does, but I think it wasn't intentional. Like, it wasn't an accident that they swapped them around. That was always intended to be the way it was. And
Whereas, like you're saying, you can look at Venonat and Butterfree and admit the theory that I did come across, like I said, is you will catch a Caterpie very early on in those games,
Yep.
and it'll evolve into its final form. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, someone decided Butterfree is a much more appealing third-gen Pokemon to get to than whatever Venomoth is. Well, then write Venomoth out of the game.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, but again, it's that 5 o'clock deadline day. All right, who's got the evolution form for Metapod? I've got this moth-looking thing. No good. Just swap them. Take that cute-looking butterfly one, but it's purple and has feet. You know. Yeah.
All right. So look, I am half convinced that some of the evolutions, the methods have just got out of hand, and they just need to clean it up, tidy it up a bit, retcon that. I'm not convinced about changing around the other thing. The one, just on the last note, wrap it up here. But the one outrageous thing I would do is get rid of 2 Nidorans. Just make one single Nidoran that is either male or female, because they brought in genders in Gold and Silver. Yeah. So just get rid of a separate Nidoran male and a Nidoran female. Get rid of that. Just make them one. They can look different whether they're male or female. Because seems ridiculous to me.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to agree with you on that one.
Okay.
I maybe I'm a little bit traditional here, and maybe I'm going to throw it at you that maybe your traditional view of Magikarp to Gyarados is a little bit. Maybe there's a bit of bias there as well, but that's fine. That's your Pokemon is your Pokemon. It's fine. I really liked it as a kid that there were 2 Pokemon that were the same essentially. Yeah. But there were different forms because that seemed.
But just because they then brought in genders,
I'm with you.
And it's like a bit awkward now. It's like.
But a bunch of Pokemon still look the same, male or female. There's nothing wrong with this one being a Nidoran. Would you just drop the symbol at the end of the name?
Yeah, exactly.
And just go, it's just
but
Nidoran?
a lot of Pokemon now have different forms. They look different.
Depending
Pikachu
on male or female.
Has a heart shape on his tail.
Oh, you'll forgive me if I missed that.
Female, yeah. So and Wobbuffet is the best. Go look.
It's got lipstick.
Sprite for Wobbuffet.
That's right. Yeah. What about Jinx? Is there a male version of Jinx?
I think Jinx is only female.
Okay.
We could continue on this rabbit hole for a while. I really think we should wrap it up. If you stuck with us for this long.
Well done. There was a lot of really strange names thrown out there.
We hope you followed.
Yeah, if you're not with it on Pokemon, thanks for listening anyway.
Yeah, but are you convinced? Did a great Pokemon war occur before Pokemon Red and Blue?
Should they go back and rightfully swap Dragonair and Gyarados?
Should they retcon Pokemon evolutions?
Should they retcon Pokemon evolutions?
Specifically, what evolutions would you like to see changed or retconned?
Yeah. Do you want to? Is there a Pokemon that maybe didn't have an evolved form that you really want to see have an evolved form?
Yeah, please let us know on our social media accounts.
Oh, it's me again. Okay. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Are You Convinced. Search Are You Convinced on Facebook. The direct link is www.facebook.com/areyouconvinced.podcast.
All right. So next week, okay, Damon.
Oh no.
Put on the run sheet. In anticipation, quotes.
I did notice the quotation mark around anticipation.
Of the release of Justice League.
Release should also be in quotation marks because it looks more like they're dropping this movie on us.
Strapping us down and holding our eyelids open.
You will enjoy it. It's good.
So Justice League is coming out. It is DC's response to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Avengers.
That's exactly what it is. Despite what they say, that's exactly what it is.
It's a pathetic response. It's like when the bully comes up to you and goes, "You're stupid," and they go, "No, you're stupid."
And everyone high fives.
It's like, no, that's not a great comeback.
I don't. Yeah. And no, we haven't seen the movie yet. Yes, it could be good.
It could be.
If it's good, we will come on here and we'll say, wow, we were wrong.
That was amazing.
We're so happy we were wrong. Yeah.
Wonder Woman was great. We have sort of tentative expectation. Like, it could be okay. I don't know.
I don't. I've got no expectations whatsoever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, anyway.
I'm going to see it only because Wonder Woman was good. Only because if it wasn't good, I'd be like,
that was the final straw.
I'm waiting for Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I'll catch it later.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for you to come back and say, no, it's worth watching.
Okay, fair enough. But we are going to talk about DC,
we are.
Which means for the first 20 minutes, we're going to talk about Marvel.
Yeah.
and eventually get around to talking
Well,
about
if you go back
DC.
to our Marvel episode, we just railed against DC for the first 20 minutes, so it's only fair.
But so that's our topic for next week. We're going into the wonderful world of DC this time.
Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, it is. There's so many other
Yes.
fantastic. There is some fantastic characters
True.
and storylines
Yep.
outside of the DC extended universe.
That's
This
right.
film-
DC is not all film.
No.
Yep.
So we're going to be delving into that. But if you have a suggestion for a topic, please let us know. Convince your friends to listen. I found out we actually have a pet listener this week.
Do we?
Yeah.
I've been wanting a pet listener from day one.
One of my friends started listening, said her cat was listening, and she was laughing, and her cat kind of nodded and went, yeah, that's funny.
No, you're making this up.
No. She legit told me
No.
earlier today. Yeah.
No, because no cat
I'm just
enjoys anything.
But just kind of like, yeah, okay, I understand. You're enjoying this human. It's great. But listening.
Well, if you are that person I want to make a big thing out of this. I want to know the cat's name. I want to make it. I want to make it the official cat mascot of the podcast.
Okay.
I would make it official pet mascot of the podcast, but I don't want to restrict us because eventually I'd like a full menagerie of
a zoo. Are you convinced zoo?
The first entrant into it can be this little kitten. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's make it happen. We'll reach out and we have an official pet listener. But convince your friends, convince your pets. The whole spiel we do.
Convince your dog. I want a dog involved. Yep. Great.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you'll tune in next week.
Yep. Looking forward to it, guys.